Sam, focus. What flew out of the truck?
At night, two people sleep in a cabin out in the mountains. They are suddenly awakened by light tapping on the door, signaling danger. One of them grabs his dagger and goes to check. He looks outside but sees nothing. He lowers his guard and is immediately dragged away by a monster. The other guy runs out of the cabin, and the monster chases after him. He performs some acrobatic moves and makes high jumps, revealing he is not human. Eventually, he gets caught by another alien who takes his pendant and kills him. At a beach in Florida, a young man wearing the same pendant rides a showboat and shows off his skills. Afterwards, his friend approaches and teases him about how he shows off just a farmora. As they chat, Nicole calls out to the guy and says he was awesome. The guy goes by Daniel, but that's not his real name. When night comes, the guys stay at the beach and continue partying. Daniel chats with his friends, and then he gets a message from Nicole. She invites him to join her in the water. Daniel finds her and gets in. They look at the stars, and Nicole talks about astronomy, but Daniel replies that he got a D in the subject. She shifts the topic and asks Daniel about his love life, saying she's never seen him with a girlfriend. Their chat continues, then suddenly Daniel feels his leg burning. The pain intensifies and pulls him under the water. While underwater, he sees a vision of the alien bounty hunter killing his target with an evil grin on his face. Daniel resurfaces, but the pain is unbearable and his leg starts glowing. Nicole sees this and runs, calling him a freak. Daniel manages to run away from the crowd gathering around him. The next morning, Daniel is passed out on the other side of the beach. A man with the same kind of dagger from earlier approaches as Daniel regains consciousness. Daniel tells the man that number 3 is dead. The man, Henri, asks if anyone saw what happened, and Daniel says nothing, so Henri takes that as a yes. Henri takes Daniel back home. At home, Henri packs their things and burns the rest, items he deems unnecessary, including Daniel's achievements and pictures with friends. Henri claims they slow them down, and they ride away. As they travel, Daniel talks about his life. He is an alien from another planet, and Henri is his guardian. Daniel continues, saying he got his first scar at the age of 9 at the border of Mexico. It was the first sign the Mogadorians had found them on Earth. They've been on the run ever since. At 12, he got his second scar during a spelling bee. Yesterday, he received his third. Each scar represents the death of someone from his planet. The Mogadorians invaded Daniel's planet, Lorien, when he was just a kid. 9 children from Lorien escaped. They had special gifts and were meant to protect their people once they grew up. But everyone else was killed, and now 3 of the 9 gifted children are dead. Daniel says he's next, because he's number 4, and they're being hunted down in order. They arrive at a motel, and Henri gives Daniel a new ID. He now goes by John Smith. Daniel, whom I'll now call John, tells Henri about the vision he had when he got the third scar. He felt number 3's pain and death. Henri decides to move to a town called Paradise, saying he has some business to take care of there. They arrive at a house, go inside, and look around. After seeing a hole in the wall, John declares that from now on, he'll be in charge of picking their next location. Later, John goes out to bring their stuff from the car. As he heads inside the house, a gecko sneaks out of the car and slowly follows him, then shape-shifts into something else, but we don't know what yet. John goes back inside, and Henri takes a picture of him to check if there's any trace of him on the internet. Henri eventually finds one from John's time at the beach and deletes it. As he talks to John about the importance of staying invisible, they hear a thud outside. They immediately take position. Henri opens the door, but there's nothing there. Henri tells John to get inside, but he finds a dog and decides to bring it in too. Fellas, that dog was the gecko. But is the dog on their side, or is it an agent of the Mogadorians? Inside, Henri is uptight about the dog, but John insists it's just a dog and not a Mogadorian. He eventually convinces Henri, who agrees to let him keep it. At night, Henri takes out a box and quietly goes downstairs to hide it in a safe place. The box is meant for John, but Henri believes he's not ready for it yet. As Henri walks back upstairs, he sees the dog watching him and glancing at the clock. The next day, John approaches Henri and says he's changed his mind, he wants to go back to school. Henri tells him this isn't the time for school, it's a time to lay low. John argues that number 3 was totally off the grid, but he was still tracked down and killed by the Mogadorians. Henri tries to argue further, saying he'd have to create new paperwork for school, but John shows him the documents he already prepared. He says he's been learning from Henri. Henri agrees to let him go but warns he'll call every hour to make sure John is safe. Back at the beach, a girl trashes the entire place and tears apart the bed. She seems to be searching for something, but when she doesn't find it, she sets the house on fire. As a huge explosion goes off behind her, she walks away, cloaked in a glowing blue aura. At school, John presents his paperwork and waits as a staff member processes his documents. While waiting, he overhears a teacher angrily reporting a student for taking a picture of him in class without permission. The teacher storms off. The principal speaks to the girl, Sarah, and tells her not to take photos of teachers without permission. Sarah promises to be a good student. As she turns to leave, the lady processing John's paperwork asks her to show John around. They walk through the halls, and John tries to make small talk. He asks what camera model Sarah uses, but she calls him out for eavesdropping before changing the subject. They eventually reach John's locker, and Sarah asks for his name. He says, John Smith, but Sarah senses he's lying, though she doesn't press him. She wishes him good luck and walks away. As John tries to open his locker, Mark and his buddies approach. They ask his name and where he's from. John says he's John Smith from Mexico. Mark asks if he plays any sports, but John says he doesn't. Mark says that's fine and offers to help if John ever runs into trouble. John just says he'll keep it in mind, he can already tell their trouble. As they walk off, they bully a nearby student too. John checks on him, the kid, Sam, who says he's fine and that Mark is just being a jerk. Sam notices John struggling with his locker and helps him out before walking away. At break time, John spots Sarah but decides to sit somewhere else and keep his distance. He keeps glancing at her until he's distracted by the bullies throwing a ball at Sam's head, knocking him over and spilling his drink. John goes to help, but the bullies mock Sam, saying, "Mommy's going to help." One of the bullies tells John to toss back the ball. John throws it with such force that it knocks the guy over. The bullies back off. John tries to talk to Sam. He notes the bullies mention something about UFOs but Sam brushes him off and walks away. Meanwhile, Sarah secretly takes pictures of John during the whole scene. At home, John flips through the school photo album and finds a picture of himself. He smiles, but the smile fades as the pictures vanish from the internet. Henri walks in and says, "Invisible. I remember talking about it, and I remember you were there." Then he walks out. Days later, the Mogadorians arrive at the burned house on the beach. One of them finds a license plate Henri had thrown into the fire. The executioner sniffs it and tells his comrade, "Number 4 is still alive." During a history lesson, John keeps glancing at Sarah until Mark approaches him and tries to strike up a conversation. As Mark talks, John's hands begin to glow. He panics and tries to hide it, but he can't control his powers yet. He bolts out of the classroom and runs into a storage room. His hands burn, so he dips them in water, but it starts to boil. The pain becomes unbearable, and John passes out. At that moment, Henri sees the clock glowing and knows what's happening. He rushes to the school and finds John. He explains that John's parents were high priests and worshippers of their gods on their home planet, which is how John and the other 12 children inherited their gifts. John says his hands are burning and this doesn't feel like a gift. Henri calms him down and tells him to focus on his breathing. Eventually, the light and pain fade away. Back home, Henri tells John he needs to learn to control his powers and notes they're coming in fast. Once he gains control, he can return to school. John goes to his room and turns his power on and off at will. He sneaks out to test it more. In the evening, as John walks home, he spots Sarah in a store and decides to wait for her. When she comes out, he calls to her, and they walk and chat. John tries to compliment her photography skills, but she keeps interrupting. He finally tells her she's making it hard to talk to her. She apologizes and agrees to listen. As they walk, they spot Sam and his stepdad, who seems pretty harsh with him. Eventually, they reach Sarah's house, and John takes a moment to appreciate the warmth of a real home. He's been on the run his entire life. Sarah invites him in for dinner. At dinner, Sarah's family asks John where he's from. He says Mexico. When they ask about his parents, he lies, saying they never married and he doesn't know his mom. He also claims Henri is his dad and a writer. Sarah's younger brother suggests they play a game called Question Time. The family takes turns asking questions and teasing one another. John watches with a big smile, thinking to himself, so this is what a real family looks like. His real parents died along with the rest of the people of Lorien when the Mogadorians attacked. After dinner, Sarah takes John to her room. She apologizes for her parents, saying they probably put on a good family show to impress him, but John assures her they seem genuine. Sarah reveals her parents want her to move to another town to study wedding photography. When John asks what she wants, she just smiles and walks toward the bed. She shows John her photography portfolio. John spots a book and as he flips through the pages, Sarah grows shy. She tries to stop him, but he says the photos are beautiful. He asks why she likes to see others, but won't let anyone see her. They stare at each other, tension rising, until John's dog barks outside the window. John's frustrated that the dog ruined the moment but doesn't take it too seriously. He says his goodbyes and walks home with his dog, unaware that Mark is watching him, seething with jealousy. The next day at school, Sam approaches John at their lockers. He warns that Mark is out for him. Mark has a thing for Sarah, and Sarah isn't all sunshine and rainbows either. When they open their lockers, red paint splashes all over their faces and clothes. Sam frantically searches for a picture of him and his real dad. Mark walks in and mocks them. Sam snaps and lunges, but Mark easily shoves him aside. John steps in, his hands glowing. Mark talks big while John tries to stay calm. Eventually, John backs off, and Mark leaves. They go to the bathroom to clean up. Sam hands John a cloth from the lost and found. John sees Sam washing the picture and asks about it. Sam explains it's a photo of his dad, taken in Mexico, at the Yucatan. He says they used to go there every year, searching for evidence of ancient alien astronauts. His dad believed in an impending alien invasion. Everyone thought he was crazy. If only Sam knew his new best friend is an alien. Sam throws the picture in the trash and walks off. John walks out too, but when he sees Sarah, he walks away angrily. Meanwhile, Henri conducts an investigation. His lead suspect is Malcolm, Sam's dad. He reads Malcolm's writings, finds an address, and checks it out. At an abandoned building, he finds symbols on the wall, just like the ones from Lorien. Then something catches his eye, a glowing rock on the ground. Henri picks it up and takes it home. At home, Henri continues his research while John lies in bed studying. He gets a message from Sarah asking if they're still meeting at the fair that night, but he doesn't reply. He picks up the camera she gave him and thinks about the offer. Eventually, John arrives at the fair and sees Sam throwing darts. He then spots Sarah taking photos. When she sees John, she walks over. They talk about Mark. Sarah explains they used to date, but when she got into photography, Mark wanted her to be his personal cheerleader. When she refused, he painted her as a snob, and everyone believed him, including her friends. John apologizes, but Sarah says it's fine. It gave her freedom to do what she truly wanted. They make up and decide to ride the haunted tunnel attraction. Sam spots them as they make their way into the haunted tunnel. Inside, people in costumes jump out and scare them. They laugh with fear and excitement, unaware they're being watched. They reach Hell's Gate. The driver tells them to get out and walk from there. As they enter the gate, John's smile fades when he sees a sign. Inside, they're chased by a man with a chainsaw, running and screaming in laughter. They get out and suddenly, a group of guys in night vision goggles ambushes John and beats him until he loses control and does this. He takes them down and chases after Sarah, who's being carried off. The man brings her to Mark. Mark tries to justify everything, asking what happened between them. Clearly, he hasn't gotten over her yet. Sarah tells him he should have just talked to her like a normal human being instead of taking things too far. As they argue, John arrives. Mark tries to fight him, but John easily overpowers him. He nearly breaks Mark's arm, but Sarah begs him to stop, and he does. After calming down, Sarah asks John to walk her home. They get at Sarah's house, and just as John starts to open up, Sarah cuts in, apologizing for the night. They're about to say goodbye, but the tension is undeniable and they kiss. Eventually, John heads home, grinning with joy. His excitement causes a nearby streetlight to explode. Curious, he tries it again, and another bulb bursts. He smiles at his new powers. Then he gets a text from Sam, "Come to my place. We need to talk." Turns out Sam saw John take down the goons earlier. John gets to Sam's place and Sam calls him to the garage. Inside, Sam tries to make John confess, even threatening that he has photos. John doesn't take the threat lightly and grabs Sam's phone only to see that he was bluffing. John scoffs and tells Sam to knock himself out. But Sam presses on. He says his whole childhood felt like an X-Files episode. He and his dad always believed in more, ancient astronauts, alien invasions. Now everyone thinks his dad is crazy, especially after his disappearance. John feels for him. He finally tells the truth. He says Sam's dad was right, about everything. Ancient astronauts, aliens, all of it. Question for you guys. What would you do if you found out your best friend was an alien? Sam explodes with joy. But John warns him, no one else can know. Sam promises to keep the secret. The next day, a police officer comes to the house and reports that a couple of boys spent the night at the hospital because they got hurt, but they won't say who is responsible. The officer continues and says Mark was one of them, and reveals that Mark is his son. John gets nervous when he hears that Mark is the sheriff's son. The sheriff says Mark told him that John was present, but John insists he wasn't really paying attention to what happened, he was with Sarah. Henri tells the sheriff they'll inform him if anything comes up, before sending him off. Outside, the sheriff spots the cameras placed all around the house and finds them suspicious. After the cop leaves, Henri asks John if it was hard to control his powers during the fight. John says it wasn't. Henri says that's good, and declares that they're leaving. John tries to protest, but Henri shows him a video from when he was at the beach with his legs glowing. The media dubbed it, "They're now amongst us." Henri argues that the firewall is too strong and he can't take down the video remotely, so they have to go and remove it manually before the Mogadorians find it. John still argues that he isn't going anywhere, saying this is not his fight and he's tired of running. Henri tries to explain the stakes at hand, but John walks off angrily. Henri runs outside and tries to stop him, but John loses his cool and pins Henri to the wall with his powers. He lets go, and they get into a fight. When John calms down, Henri releases him, and they talk. The Mogs, short for Mogadorians, don't colonize, they decimate and then move on. Henri says the Mogs have come to Earth, and the only ones who can stop them are number 4 and the remaining 5 others. John reveals that he always thinks about leaving Sarah, but he can't do it. Henri tells him that Lorians don't love like humans do. With them, it's forever, and they never forget. The only way to protect Sarah is to leave town. Henri gives John a day to say his goodbyes. Back home, John lies in bed. After thinking, he decides to go meet Sarah. He goes downstairs and calls out for Henri, but gets no response. John spots a box on the table and takes it back to his room. He calls Henry's phone, nervously asking where he is. A male voice answers and tells John to come to 417, Willard Court, Warsaw, Indiana, and he'll tell him where Henri is. After the call, John contacts Sam for help. They ride together, and Sam asks if the Lorians abduct humans. John says no. Sam asks about the other guys, but John is silent. They arrive at the location, and John steps out of the car. Sam grabs a shotgun and decides to join him, saying he wants to help, but John stops him. He says Sam has already helped enough, and they don't know what or who is inside the house. He tells Sam to go home, then walks toward the house. Seconds later, Sam walks in on John and says he isn't going anywhere, he wants to know why the Mogs abducted his dad. As they talk, a man opens the door and they hide. John tells Sam to follow the man while he goes inside to find Henri. Inside, John finds different news clippings and posters on paranormal activity. It turns out the house belongs to a man obsessed with aliens and extraterrestrials. John walks into the basement, and his shirt gets caught on a nail, which he rips free. He finds Henri tied to a pipe. As he tries to free him, John is attacked by another man. John knocks him out and frees Henri. Henri says John shouldn't have come, it's a trap. As they talk, the other man walks in holding Sam at gunpoint. He tells them to surrender. Henri attacks the man. After disarming him, John pins him against the ceiling and demands answers. The man reveals that the Mogs are already on their way. Not only will they destroy John, they'll take over the world. After hearing enough, John simply lets go, and the man falls face first to the ground, knocking himself out. They prepare to leave, but hear footsteps. John runs for the door, but it gets blasted open, sending him flying. Henri manages to pin the Mog down and tells John and Sam to run. They rush outside and get in a car while Henri continues fighting. The Mog fires at Henri, but he dodges the shots. Henri grabs a shotgun and returns fire, knocking the Mog down. He then runs to the car where John and Sam are waiting. Henri tells Sam to start the car, but Sam says he lost the keys. Henri tells John to start it with his powers, and John tries. Meanwhile, the Mog gets back up and heads outside. He spots them and jumps onto the car. He pushes his blade to stab John, but Henri throws himself between them, and the blade stabs Henri instead. John loses it. He pushes the Mogadorian away and simultaneously starts the car. They drive off. As they ride, Henri gives John a glowing stone and reveals that Sam's dad was trying to help the Lorians. The stone will help them find the rest of the special kids, so they can defeat the Mogs once and for all. They stop near a train track, and Henri gives John his final blessings before dying. Earlier that night, the rest of the Mogs had arrived at the two men's house. After learning Henri escaped with the glowing stone, they killed the men. One of the Mogs gives the executioner a piece of cloth from the nail, and the executioner pinpoints John's location. Back in the present, Sam informs John that the media thinks he and Henri are terrorists. The cops found a lot of computers and gadgets after raiding their home. As they speak, John gets a text from Sarah asking who he truly is. They get back in the car, and as they ride, Sam reveals he has the same glowing stone. John tells him to bring it and also to stop at Lindale. John wants to meet Sarah. They arrive at the location, and John heads inside the house. Mark calls his dad and tells him that John is at the house party. John goes upstairs and finds Sarah sitting on the roof. He joins her and they talk. Sarah says she can't believe that John and Henri are terrorists. John says they aren't. With little time, John tells her he came to say goodbye. As he prepares to jump from the roof, the cops reach them. In the chaos, Sarah slips and falls, but John catches her just in time and jumps down as well. They run into the street and a police car nearly corners them, but John uses his powers to stop it before escaping. People, including Mark, witness what happened. After running for a while, Sarah tells John she knows a better place to hide, and they head to the school. There, John explains everything, and Sarah asks him to show his powers. Meanwhile, Mark and his dad drive around looking for Sarah. His dad asks if he knows where they might be. Mark says he does. As they drive, they come across the Mogs, who block the road. One Mog yanks the door open, pulls Mark's dad out, and throws him aside like a piece of chicken. The leader grabs Mark and demands to know where John is. Back at the school, John gets a call from Sam, warning that the Mogs are on their way and it's not safe. He also says he found his dog and is coming to help. As they talk, the school lights go out, the Mogs have arrived. The Mogadorians gear up and send troops inside. Mark shouts for Sarah to run. Meanwhile, Sam and John's dog arrive at the school. They see a large trailer and hear banging from inside. The door bursts open, and two huge monsters fly out, screeching. John's dog starts barking, and begins to transform, scaring Sam and he runs away. Inside, John and Sarah run for safety, but a door bursts open in front of them. The mysterious girl walks out and fires in their direction, hitting the Mogs. A shootout begins, and the girl shows off her powers, taking down two Mogs. Afterward, she introduces herself as number 6. She asks about John's guardian, and he replies that he's dead. She says hers is too. They talk, and number 6 makes a remark about Sarah, making her visibly jealous. Sarah leads them through the school to a classroom. They nearly shoot Sam, who rushes in, but John stops number 6 just in time. Sam warns that monsters are coming and adds that John's dog turned into one. He thinks it wants to eat him. John starts to ask what kind of monster.
Sam, focus. What flew out of the truck? John rejoins number 6, who's still fighting. She asks him to recharge her, and he does. They prepare for round 2. John spots the Mog who killed Henri, and decides to avenge him. They fight fiercely and win. Number 6 later reveals that the dog is actually John's protector, sent from Lorien. Outside, they face the rest of the Mogs, including their boss. While Sam and Sarah flee, Sam spots a Mogadorian and instinctively shoots him dead in one shot.
I play a lot of Xbox.
Back to John and number 6, they keep annihilating the Mogs. John pins the boss against a fence. A second monster swoops in and grabs number 6. She struggles, already out of power. John shifts his focus, recharges her mid-air, and she teleports, killing the monster. The Mog boss fires at John, who blocks it, but is thrown back. As he recovers, the Mog grabs and mocks him, saying he'll enjoy killing him and use the stone to find the others. He prepares to stab John, but John fights back. He heats all the Mog's bombs, and number 6 jumps in just in time to push John away. John fires his final shot, and the Mog explodes, destroying the school field. With the battle over, police sirens wail in the distance. A few days later, John, number 6, Sam, and Sarah gather. John and number 6 join their stones, receiving a vision showing where to find the others. Surprisingly, Mark is there too. He gives John his box. He stole it from the evidence room. He tells John to ride south because he told his dad John would head north. John says Sam will come with them. Number 6 reluctantly agrees but threatens to shoot Sam if he slows them down. John and Sarah talk. He promises to return for her, saying Loriens fall in love once, forever. Sarah promises to wait. They kiss and John rides off with Sam and number 6, leaving Sarah and Mark behind. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more interesting movies like this. See you in the next one.